Today we're checking out 14 mythical creatures that actually existed, including the Bloop, the Plesiosaur, and even Cthulhu?
Whether it's the mythical animals of our time or the terrifying creatures from thousands of years ago, these beings were not just products of human imagination.
What?
They actually roam this earth.
You're telling me that thing's real?
In Norse mythology, a giant
It's
wolf
real?
named Fenrir is very famous. You might recognize a fictional version of Fenrir from the movie Thor, Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, it was
Fenrir
giant.
isn't the only giant wolf found in myths.
Wait,
In the
there's
real
more?
world, about
Real ones?
10,000 years ago during the Ice Age, massive wolves known as dire wolves
Whoa.
roamed the earth. These
Wait a second, guys. I'm pretty sure that scientists recently said that they brought back dire wolves, which means that these ginormous mythical wolves are now going to be roaming the earth once again. Luckily, they are in cages and it is very, very secure. But if these things get loose, I'm pretty sure they are like twice the size of a normal wolf, which is kind of exciting, but also kind of terrifying.
predators were 25% larger than modern wolves and far more powerful, making them formidable hunters. Dire
Why does he
wolves
look so friendly?
specialized in taking down the megafauna of their time. However, as
That's
the
pretty
Ice Age
impressive.
came to an end, much of their prey disappeared, leading to their extinction. Meanwhile, their smaller cousins, gray wolves, managed to survive and continue to thrive today.
Wait, yeah, I actually am kind of curious about that. So now the fact that scientists have brought back dire wolves, they went extinct for a reason, because they lost all of their prey, they lost their environment, the climate is changing. So what does this mean for like a modern day dire wolf? Are they gonna die out again? Or do we have to like keep them in zoos and in containment centers so that they have access to food, like medical care, and stuff like that, so that they don't go extinct again? We don't think about these things.
Number 6, four-tusked elephants. In Hindu
Tusked?
mythology, four-tusked elephants are often
What the?
mentioned, with the deity Airavata riding one as his mount. These mythical creatures also appear in the epic Ramayana. Surprisingly, creatures resembling these mythical elephants existed millions of years ago. Relatives of modern elephants, such as the Gomphotheres, roamed the earth about 2 to 3
What
million
the?
years ago. These ancient giants had 4 tusks, using their lower pair like shovels to feed on vegetation. During this time, early humans like Homo erectus were evolving. It's plausible that fossils of Gomphotheres, discovered by early humans, inspired the tales of four-tusked elephants in Hindu mythology.
So basically what they're saying is that the early versions of humans actually lived during the time of these four-tusked elephants. I am kind of curious though, why did they go extinct? Because in my tiny little peasant brain, it makes more sense to have more tusks than just like elephants nowadays that have 2 giant tusks that could be used for digging stuff or for like combat if they have to fight off a lion or something like that. But it would be better to have 4, right? Because you have like 2 for digging and then 2 tiny ones for like attacking or stabbing. So I wonder why modern day elephants don't have 4 tusks.
mythology. Number 5. Mapinguari. In the heart
The
of the Amazon
what?
rainforest,
Mapping
tribal
what?
legends tell of a creature known
What
as
the?
Mapinguari.
Okay, what the flip is that thing? It has like a cyclops eyeball on its forehead, and then its chest isn't a chest with like normal stuff. It doesn't have abs, it doesn't have nipples, it doesn't have anything else. It just has a ginormous mouth. It's basically like a mimic, like the chest that has a giant mouth instead of actually having stuff inside, except instead of that, it's a chest that has a mouth. It's crazy.
Descriptions of this being include a single eye, a mouth on its stomach, and a fierce role as the jungle's protector.
It's like a
While many
mutated
believe
cyclops.
Mapinguari is purely mythical, history points to a potential origin. During the
What?
Ice Age, the Amazon was home to giant ground sloths, massive
Oh.
creatures as large as elephants. Their unique features might have inspired the myth of Mapinguari. Unfortunately, like many Ice Age giants, giant ground sloths went extinct around 11,000 years ago due to climate change and human hunting.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because these things, I mean, even though they were big and hairy, they had 2 eyeballs like us, and they also did not have a mouth. They just had a bunch of chest hair, and they had hair all over their bodies. So where did somebody come up with the idea that underneath the hair was a ginormous flesh-eating mouth? That just, it doesn't compute in my brain. I don't get it.
Over time, tribal stories about these creatures may have transformed into the legend of Mapinguari.
Is that where
Number
Bigfoot
4,
came from?
Griffin. Throughout history, humans have revered lions as the rulers of the land and eagles as the kings of the
Wait, is this guy trying to tell me that griffins were actually real?
sky. Ancient people, upon discovering the fossils of ceratopsian dinosaurs, likely imagined a hybrid of these 2 majestic animals.
That
giving
kinda
rise
makes
to the
sense.
mythical griffin. A real-world counterpart to this legendary creature existed in New Zealand Zealand just 700 years ago. Haast's eagles were the largest eagles ever known, capable of preying on moa, flightless birds weighing up to 250 kilograms.
That's
These apex
insane.
Predators had no difficulty hunting moa, given their size and strength. However, when the Maori people arrived in New Zealand around 1300 AD, they hunted moa to extinction, which ultimately led to the extinction of Haast's eagles as well.
The crazy part is that it is believable that like old, very, 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 very old versions of human beings would find fossils and then they didn't really know what they were from because science isn't what it is today, and we weren't able to actually say for certain what this fossil was actually from. So a lot of people probably just speculated that some of the dinosaur fossils were like modern day creatures, but they didn't realize that they were actually finding dinosaurs from hundreds of millions of years ago. And I actually know for a fact that some of these old groups of humans used to find like T-Rex fossils or like other large carnivorous dinosaurs. And that's where the idea of dragons came from. They would see the skull that was giant and it had giant teeth and everything. And then they thought to themselves, maybe this was from like a giant reptile creature, but they couldn't find the rest of the fossils. So they thought like, maybe it was a big lizard that had wings. And then I'm pretty sure that's where dragons came from.
3. Kappa. If you've ever watched Doraemon, you might remember the kappa, a creature from Japanese mythology. Kappa is
like a turtle.
As a turtle-like monster that drags humans into water and eats
Okay, that's weird.
Interestingly,
whoa.
prehistoric creatures resembling the kappa once existed. Archelon, the largest turtle species ever discovered, lived during the age of dinosaurs. These massive turtles could reach lengths of 15 feet.
What?
Beaks capable of
15 feet?
If Archelon were alive today, its appearance and behavior could easily inspire legends like that of the
guys. 50 feet is massive. 50 feet is like half the size of a 100-foot skyscraper. That is insane. That's bigger than like 2 school buses combined together, and that thing was floating around in the ocean.
Kappa. Number 2, the bloop. In 1997,
okay, what?
A mysterious and powerful sound was detected in the Pacific Ocean.
We're saying the bloop was real? No, whales are real, but the bloop was not real.
The sound, nicknamed the bloop, traveled over vast distances, sparking theories that it originated from a colossal sea creature. For a sound of such magnitude, the creature would have to be 100 times larger than a blue whale. This
it's not possible.
Gave rise to the mythical modern creature called the bloop. However, scientists later revealed that the sound was caused by melting icebergs in the Antarctic Ocean.
I did hear that.
This explanation, the idea of an undiscovered giant creature isn't far-fetched. Prehistoric oceans hosted enormous species like
that's true.
A fish that opened its 40,000 tooth-filled mouth wide enough to resemble the mythical bloop. Number 1, giant. That is insane.
Wait, I gotta go back and see that picture. So that is the closest possible animal on planet Earth that resembled the bloop. Even though the bloop, they say from the sound that it made, that the size of the bloop would have had to been 100 times bigger than a great giant big blue whale, which is the biggest creature to ever exist on planet Earth. So this creature, this fish with tons and tons of teeth, was like a tiny miniature version of the bloop that maybe lived during the dinosaur period.
Resemble the mythical bloop. Number 1, giant bovids. Bovids, including cattle, buffalo, and bison, hold a revered place in many cultures. Greek mythology features Minotaur monsters, while Native American and Hindu traditions honor these creatures as sacred. But did giant bovids exist in reality? Yes.
What?
During the Ice Age, a species called bison latifrons roamed North America. This was the largest and heaviest bovid ever known.
How big are we talking?
With horns so wide that a car could fit.
It's crazy to think that something like this actually existed, and it was as big as a car. It kind of reminds me of like a modern day moose. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a moose in person before, but they can get as big as like a little car, which is kind of crazy to think that some animals, especially animals that aren't carnivores, can be so massive and giant. Kind of like a rhinoceros as well. Like, even though this thing is extinct, there are still animals out there that are as big as this creature that are still roaming the earth, which is so cool to me. Next up, we have unicorns.
Unicorns in fairy tales. But where did that idea come from? Thousands of years ago, people in the Indus Valley drew a one-horned animal on small stone stamps.
Why? Why would they do that?
Just myths, but a real animal similar to them once existed. During the Ice Age, a massive beast called Elasmotherium.
What?
It looked like a rhino, had a horn as tall as a person.
Oh my God!
One of the largest animals humans ever hunted. But climate change and modern humans led to its extinction. So unicorns weren't just legends. We just hunted them to death.
We really did. Oh my goodness, that is crazy. that like there were all of these animals that used to exist not even that long ago. A lot of the animals on this list survived, what, like 10,000 years ago? And then either climate change or humans hunting them is the reason why they're no longer on planet Earth. And I guess that is true. I mean, even though it doesn't really look like a unicorn, it kind of looks like a very, very ginormous, scary, demonic version of a unicorn. I could see where the idea of the unicorn would come from, because I mean, this thing kind of just looks like a giant horse-like creature that has a massive horn. The horn was as big as people, which is crazy because even like elephant tusks sometimes aren't that big. These things were tinier than elephants, but had horns bigger.
Number 6, dwarves. Dwarves have been in myths for over 1,000 years. But what if they actually walked among us?
Are we talking like Neanderthals?
Years ago, a small human species called Homo floresiensis lived on an island in Indonesia. They were much shorter than us. So tiny, people call them hobbits. Life was tough. They had to survive next to giant predators like Komodo dragons. But they weren't born small by accident. When bigger humans arrived 100,000 years ago, the island's isolation caused them to shrink over time. A survival trick called insular dwarfism.
That does happen a lot of times with animals on islands, still to this day, where like a lot of animals that are trapped and isolated on islands will actually start to like dwarf themselves. They'll start to, over generations, get tinier and tinier and tinier, just because the food there isn't as abundant. There's not as much space to fill, so they kind of like shrink over time, which is insane because that's how evolution works. So I guess the same thing happened with this early version of humans.
So dwarves weren't just characters from stories. We just never met them. Number 5, Yeti and Bigfoot.
Okay.
You've probably heard about a big hairy creature
of course.
On 2 legs called the Yeti in the Himalayas.
Is this the giant sloth?
In 1951, climbers near Mount Everest found massive footprints in the snow. People thought they belonged to the Yeti.
Guys, I'm kind of curious. Do you believe in the Yeti and the Bigfoot? Leave a comment down below if you do, and leave a like on today's video.
But in 2017, DNA tests showed the prints came from rare Himalayan bears. So
that makes sense.
A bear or something else.
It definitely is a bear, right?
Claimed to capture Bigfoot in the wild. Many called it fake, but in 2022,
looks like a gorilla.
When experts re-examined the video in 4K, they noticed the suit didn't match anything made by humans.
Yeah, that looks weird.
Things get wild. 3.7 million years ago, a small creature called Australopithecus walked upright in Africa. They were only 4 feet tall and had small brains, but I'm
pretty sure that's like one of the earliest versions of humans. Eventually, we evolved from this tiny 4-foot monkey-like creature into the humans that we are today.
Walked like us, and may have even eaten meat. Number 4, Loch Ness Monster.
Oh yeah! Okay, I know for a fact that the Loch Ness Monster is real, but it's based on really, really old dinosaurs that lived in the ocean hundreds of millions of years ago called plesiosauruses.
Claimed for centuries to see a huge mysterious creature in Loch Ness with a long neck and a dinosaur-like body. But despite sonar scans and underwater cameras, no one has found solid proof. Therefore, most scientists think the monster is a mix of hoaxes and mistaken sightings. But millions of years ago, something very similar did exist, the plesiosaurus. It wasn't a dinosaur, but it lived at the same time.
Guys, isn't it kind of crazy that like modern day humans have somehow come up with this idea of a Loch Ness Monster? And the crazy part is something like this actually existed, but it existed way before humans actually were ever roaming planet Earth. Like, it's just super weird to me, and I don't know if it's just like a weird coincidence, but the fact that we just magically came up with the idea of this like dinosaur called the plesiosaurus and then called it the Loch Ness Monster is kind of insanely cool to me.
Flippers like paddles and a neck as long as a giraffe's, it ruled the oceans for 150 million years. Then, like the dinosaurs, it vanished in a mass extinction. Therefore, if plesiosaurus went extinct so long ago,
the meteor got it.
How have people seen it in Loch Ness for over 1,500 years? The logical explanation is that someone found a plesiosaur fossil and mistook it for the Loch Ness Monster. Number 3,
I guess so, yeah.
Serpents. Giant snakes show up in stories across the world, from Jormungandr in Roman tales to Vasuki in Hindu myths. But these monsters weren't all make-believe, because scientists found fossils of Titanoboa.
Yeah, guys, I don't know if you have heard of Titanoboa before, but this thing actually existed. And just check out this fossil again. Look at the size of that. The entire fossil is as big as like a 2-story building. Look how much space that's filling. In the background, you can see there's like an escalator that goes up 1 story, and that's not even close to the size of the Titanoboa. This thing was a ginormous serpent that would crawl around in jungles and eat probably everything.
Found fossils of Titanoboa, a snake as long as a city
That's
bus,
insane.
and Vasuki indicus, which was even longer, nearly 50
How?
feet.
How is that
Titanoboa
possible?
lived in South America's swamps and crushed prey with its body. Vasuki was found in India, which links it back to the ancient stories.
If that was real today,
scientists named it after the legendary
I'm not
serpent.
going outside
So
again.
These weren't just giant snakes in myths. They were real hunters, bigger and scarier than all the animals alive today. Number 2, dragons. Dragons appear
Oh
in
yeah, we talked
legends
about them
everywhere.
earlier.
In Asia, they are often shown without wings and soaring through.
It would be really awkward if he doesn't mention the fact that humans found fossils of like a T-Rex and that's where dragons came from. And he just brings up a completely different fact and then I get exposed for lying to you guys. But I'm pretty sure that I was right earlier, but we're about to find out.
Clouds to control the rain.
Please be right.
Meanwhile, European dragons are winged and known for breathing fire. Some believe these tales began when people found huge bones and imagined dragons.
Okay,
But millions
there we
of
go.
years ago, something just as amazing ruled the skies. Quetzalcoatlus.
Oh.
This flying reptile stood as tall as a giraffe and had wings wider than a school bus.
Yeah, this thing is similar to a pterodactyl, but bigger, scarier, and way less friendly.
It didn't flap like a bird, though. Instead, it launched itself into the air and soared like a glider. Some scientists think it also hunted on land, using its long beak to snap up baby dinosaurs.
That is
So what happened to
crazy.
it? The same asteroid that killed the dinosaurs wiped it out too. But its
Dang,
legacy
R.I.P.
lives on in hawks and eagles, just smaller and less terrifying.
Oh, wow.
Number 1, Cthulhu. Cthulhu
Okay,
is
what? Wait a second. We are saying the ginormous, world-ending monster Cthulhu was a real creature?
creepy sea monster from
Seriously?
a 1928 horror story, said to haunt dreams from the depths of the ocean. But long before that tale, real sea monsters ruled the deep. One was Tusoteuthis, a massive squid-like
Whoa.
creature that reached 40 feet long. That's 2
Wow.
giraffes laid end to end. It had a
Oh
hard
my
shell
God,
inside,
what in the
which made it stronger
Subnautica is
and
that?
faster than modern squids. It hunted giant fish
What?
and even baby marine reptiles. But like many others, it
That's an
disappeared when
alien.
the asteroid hit 66 million years ago.
Dang,
Cthulhu
bro.
might be a
This
story,
asteroid
but
killed everything.
Tusoteuthis was real. And here's something to think about. We've explored only 5% of the ocean. So if monsters
True.
like that existed before, what else is hiding in the dark?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, it seems like there's more creatures to check out, so I want you guys to comment down below any that we missed in today's video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and click right here to see more.